New tonight, Donna Adelson is now back at the Leon County Jail ahead of her trial next week. She had previously been moved to Wakulla County, but jail records show she was booked into Leon County today. Adelson is charged in the 2014 murder for hire of her former son-in-law, FSU law professor Dan Markel. 4 others, including her son Charlie, have been convicted in connection to Markel's death and are serving prison sentences. Jury selection for her trial starts next week. Now, we've also learned tonight Wendy Adelson is asking a judge to quash this defense's plans for her to testify. Adelson was also subpoenaed by the state and is on their witness list. In the motion filed Wednesday, Wendy Adelson reasons that the defense cannot provide her immunity for her testimony, but the state can. It also says Wendy would like to provide a statement through her lawyer instead. The filing notes that a different judge granted a similar request back in 2022 for Catherine Magbana's trial, but the defense was still able to cross-examine her that year. If forced to testify in Donna Adelson's trial, the filing says that she plans to invoke her Fifth Amendment right.
There's nothing more powerful than the odor of mendacity.
All right, welcome back Inside the Law, everyone. I'm your host, Phil Holloway. I think we got a great show lined up for you today. We got this Wendy Adelson trial the Donna Adelson murder trial that's getting underway. We may have a Wendy Adelson murder trial in the future, but we'll get into that. But of course, this is your LawTube channel, where we bring you inside the real criminal justice system, not just the one that you may think that we have, but the one that we really actually have in the real life. Got a great group of my colleagues. I've got Ashleigh Merchant and Rachel Kaufman going to be joining me to break down all of the comings and goings. So let's just go ahead and bring them in. First off, we'll have Rachel. How are you, Rachel? Good afternoon. How have things been?
Happy to be here. Happy to be back on the show. I feel like it's been a while. A lot has happened, but no time has passed, but it's passed. Just happy to be.
You've been raising a baby, so you've had plenty going on.
It changes your life, folks. If you don't have children,
yeah, sure does.
One is enough for me.
All right, and here's our friend and colleague, the great Ashleigh Merchant. Ashleigh, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are y'all? It's good to see you guys.
Oh, it's great to be here. Look, it's always fun to talk about, law. I think, on a Sunday afternoon when you've got a big jury selection about to get underway like we have in Tallahassee coming up next week. For those of you who have not been maybe following the Donna Adelson case, I want to play just a couple of minutes, if you'll bear with me. I want to play a segment from that we did the other day on MK True Crime, and you'll see how we're going to go ahead and give you just a breakdown of what's happened. And Dave Ehrenberg, who's he's a lawyer in Florida. He used to be the elected DA or state's attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida for a long time. And he was personal friends with the victim in this case, Dan Markel, who was killed back in 2014. So let Dave sort of set the stage for us real quick. All right, our next topic is the Donna Adelson case, set for trial coming up later this month in Tallahassee, Florida. This is being called the matriarch mastermind case because Donna Adelson is a mother of someone who's already been convicted of killing her son-in-law, and there's a lot of background here. This is actually a very complicated case, but fortunately, Dave Ehrenberg knows all about it. Of course, he's a longtime prosecutor in the state of Florida. And Dave, as I understand it, you actually knew the victim in the case. So why don't you tell us what's happened up to this point and what this case is all about?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. This one is personal to me because I was friends with Danny Markel. He was an FSU law professor, and I knew him when I was a state senator in Tallahassee. He was a great guy, and he had a marriage to Wendy, and the marriage dissolved, and there was a fight over the 2 kids. And Wendy wanted the kids back in South Florida. Wendy is from South Florida, and she has parents, and She has a brother down in South Florida. Now, Tallahassee is about a 7-hour drive from where they live in Broward. And so she wanted them down there. Danny Markel was doing very well as an FSU law professor, wanted the kids to stay in Tallahassee. And the mother-in-law here, Donna Adelson, was getting very upset. And she told Wendy that you need to do whatever it takes, essentially, to get those kids back down here. Like, for example, you should threaten to have the kids convert to Catholicism, Christianity, because the kids are Jewish and Danny was a religious a Jew. And so she was saying, you should do whatever it takes. In fact, dress them up in Nazi clothes and say that's what's going to happen unless they go and move to South Florida. And then they offered to bribe Danny Markel, pay him $1 million to have the kids move to South Florida. Danny said no to all this stuff. And then he found out that the mother-in-law, Donna, was bad-mouthing him, trashing him in front of the kids, in front of his kids. And so Danny moved the court to have supervised visitation so that Donna Adelson, the mother-in-law, could not have unsupervised visitation with the kids. And after that, they decided, the Adelsons, to put a plan into action. And that would be to get hitmen to kill Danny Markel. And how do we know that? Because 2 hitmen went up to Danny's door in Tallahassee and killed him, shot him to death. And one of the hitmen flipped. And the 2 hitmen were convicted. One was sentenced to life in prison. The other one got 7 years in addition to his sentence because he was the one who flipped.
Can I ask you a real quick question, not to cut you off? Sure. These hitmen, right? Weren't they gang affiliated? And wasn't one of these hitmen the baby daddy of, I guess it's Charlie, which is Donna's son, the dentist, I guess, periodontist in Miami. That was his girlfriend at the time, but these hitmen were connected to her, and weren't they connected to some kind of a gang?
Well, the Adelsons didn't know hitmen, and it took police a while to figure out the connection between these hitmen. One of them was involved with the Latin Kings gang, a very violent gang, and the Adelsons. The Adelsons had this thriving dental practice in South Florida. They were making bank. And then they found a connection. Charlie Adelson, Wendy's brother, Danny's brother-in-law, he was a smooth operator in South Florida. He drove a Lamborghini with a license plate that said Maestro. He was making money, dating shot girls, traveling to Thailand to do God knows what over there. And he was the kind of guy involved with steroids and other drugs, living the high life. And he had this girlfriend, Katie McBanawa, who's a shot girl at a club, and she had a baby daddy who was the hitman. And that's the connection. So then Katie was charged, who was the conduit, the shot girl. And she had to go through 2 trials. The first trial was 11-1, hung jury, 1 juror holdout. They tried her again, convicted. She's now in jail, life in prison. Then they went after Charlie, step by step. That's the brother-in-law. And they got him convicted, life in prison. Now they're going after the mother-in-law, Donna. Her day of reckoning is upon us. And everyone is asking, what about Wendy? Well, they have not charged Wendy yet, but I think that is probably going to come if and when Donna is convicted.
All right. Look, nobody can really lay it out better than Dave. I mean, he knows this case inside and out. Ashleigh, you are a native Floridian, grew up in Florida. You know all about Florida. Your thoughts on this case, and we'll just kind of work through it, as the conversation takes us, because we got a lot to work with here.
Yeah, I think most people know me as a Georgia person because I've been here, for 23 years. But the other part of my life, the entire rest of my life, I spent in Florida. And I'm actually in Florida quite a bit. We own property not very far from Tallahassee, less than an hour from Tallahassee. And I think it's going to play out. I saw in the chats about someone saying that Donna's not going to be very liked by the jury. I think that's a real fear that they're going to have here, because there is a huge divide in Florida between South Florida and the Panhandle. I mean, there's really a divide. There's kind of like 3 Floridas, but there's definitely 2. And the Panhandle is very conservative. It's very Southern. It's a lot of folks, think it's kind of Alabama, and not necessarily old, not necessarily the newer part of Florida, but more of the old part of Florida. And so you've got someone from South Florida who's coming up, who's being tried by a jury of their peers, but the peers are going to be Tallahassee folks. And, Tallahassee's an interesting town. You've got the university, but the university kids, they're not going to serve on the jury pool. Those kids, they vote and they serve where their home base is. So they're not going to make up your jury pool. What you've got is you've got people that work for the government, because that's really what Tallahassee is. You either work for the government or you work for Florida State or Florida A&M, one of those groups. And they tend to be more conservative. So I think we're going to see that play out. Another thing that I think is going to be interesting is seeing how they take jury selection with a jury that's going to have known about this case. And what I mean by that is there's no way that the jury's not going to have prior knowledge of this case. They're going to know, And so the lawyers are going to have to be real careful trying to figure out where those folks have gotten their news sources on this case and if they've formed any opinions on it already, because the jurors are definitely going to know.
Rachel, it's been going on for a long time. 2014, by my math, what's that, 11 years ago now? And you've got, I'm going to just throw this graphic up. It's going to cover us up a little bit. But in order to keep our mics going, I'm just going to keep us added to the stage. So to follow along with this, what you're looking at on your screen on the right-hand side, the far right, you got the two, let's just call them the gang members. You got Tato and Tuto. Apparently, Sigfredo, the bottom right, is supposed to be the actual trigger man. Next to him is Catherine, who was sort of the go-between, who was also the mother of Sigfredo. Y'all, please correct me if I get this wrong. I'm doing this by memory. Catherine was the mother of Sigfredo's children. Also, she's the shot girl that you heard referenced a minute ago, but she also worked, as I understand it, in a dental office where Charlie Adelson, center of the screen, who's the son of Donna, they met and they had a romantic relationship. And so apparently she was the go-between. Now, all these people on the right side, from Charlie over to the right, they've all been convicted. Took Catherine 2 trials. There was one hung juror that held out for an acquittal. So they tried her again and convicted her. But I think the top right, Rivera pled out and actually provided some testimony and basically flipped on everybody else. And that's how they got the whole thing going. And the law enforcement is just kind of working their way over to the left. You got Donna Adelson up next, who's Charlie's mother. So, Rachel, how are they going to prosecute Donna for masterminding this murder for hire that allegedly was motivated by let's just call it a very tense, or there was this custody battle, right? It was bitter between Dan Markel and his ex-wife, Wendy Adelson. And so the idea is that this was all done so that Dan would be out of the picture and Wendy would be free to take the kids to South Florida because the judge in family court said no, right? So how are they going to, Rachel, go ahead and go after Donna?
So I think this family dynamic is one that they're going to really have to explain, which is why Wendy's probably, going to have to testify, and why it's just important to understand the level of control that this mother exerted over her children's life. I think she's estranged from, there's a third child in their family. So there's Wendy, there's her brother, and then she has 2 brothers. One brother's not involved at all. I think Donna is the kind of matriarch. She's a matriarch of your nightmares. I mean, she is extra involved in her kids' lives, the kind of mother that's on the phone 4, 5, 6 times a day with each of her children. She clearly feels that she can actually, it was a divorce and a custody battle, between Wendy and Dan, yet somehow the mother is the one that is actually having court orders against her if she wants visitation, because she just can't, she's like a loose cannon. I know a lot of people like her. So the dynamic, it has to be set up such that if you're prosecuting the case, that you have her as this, she's the one that's saying we have to do anything that it takes. We have to convert the kids, dress them up as Nazis. If she seems to be the idea person. And so that's how she's being prosecuted, is it starts with her. It starts with her influence over her son, and over Wendy. And I think that it's poor Harvey, who's on the way left in the picture that you just showed. I look at him and I'm like, he's just glad that he wasn't the one being plotted against. I feel like he married somebody who he probably knew was very dangerous and somehow managed to stay out of her way. But that's why I don't think he's going to ever be prosecuted, because I actually think he has nothing to do with it. But Donna was the one that told her son that something needed to be done about this. Her only defense at the same time is that she's so far removed from actually making it happen. She's kind of a verbal processor, saying crazy things that she never actually intended for this to happen. However, the prosecution's going to also have the benefit of everything that's happened since the initial prosecutions went on, like all of these taped conversations, these crazy one-way tickets.
Hold on. I don't mean to interrupt you, Rachel, but
yeah, she's sinking herself.
That's a nice segue. So I want to go ahead and show again. This was, I guess, last fall sometime. I'm going to show the video of Donna and her husband's Harvey, I guess. They had bought one-way tickets to Vietnam, which happens to have no extradition treaty with the United States. Let's take a look at that, then we'll talk.
New video tonight is giving us our first look at Miami-Dade police body camera video showing the arrest of Donna Adelson at Miami International Airport. She's the mother-in-law of murdered Florida State University law professor Dan Markel. Adelson and her husband were about to board a flight to Vietnam when she was taken into custody last November. As police explained what was happening, her husband removed her jewelry before police took her to jail. Take a listen to what unfolded as she was taken into custody in the jetway at MIA.
To you. Why do I have to give this? My attorney said not to. Why do I have to give it to you? This is evidence. Evidence. Do me a favor. She's under arrest. I have to go with it. I have to go. I have to go. You don't have any choice. Let me help you out. No, I have to stay. Please don't do this. Don't stay. You need to grab the bags. Take the bags. Yeah. And you need to wait outside. Okay.
My husband's almost 80 years old. He can't come with me?
Please, can I help? No, you can't join me there. Oh, don't do this, please.
Please.
Oh,
someone's got to help him get home. This is terrible. You can't do this. This is insane.
Another body camera video shows her arriving at the jail in West Miami-Dade. Adelson has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation charges. There was more than an hour worth of body camera video released in this case. If you'd like to see it for yourself, you can find it on cbsmiami.com.
All right, so that's the video of her arrest. Now we got more context now about how they, maybe got to Vietnam. Ashleigh was talking about, the jury pool. This is local news down there, so everybody in the jury pool has seen this, Rachel. So how do you pick a jury when this has been blasted on everybody's TV in Tallahassee?
I think it's going to be pretty difficult. I think they have more than 300 jurors coming or something like that.
Yep,
I mean,
I've got that here. Hold on a second. Jury selection set to begin Tuesday, August 19th. Yep. The number of prospective jurors have summoned to be nearly 300, according to Judge Stephen Everett. Now, 50 will be pre-screened each morning and afternoon beginning on the 19th. The court has been, beginning on the 19th until the court has 100 to 110. Eventually, 12 jurors with 3 alternates will be selected. The state and the defense need to present their cases, and both sides have said they would take about 6 days. I think that's probably a little on the light side. Lawyers are notorious for underestimating how long their presentation is going to take, right? But they say that that they're going to move directly into the evidence as soon as they seat 12 jurors, and this could take a little while. But Rachel, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were talking about the number of jurors, and I wanted to give you that background there. So, and I want to hear from both of you guys. How do you talk to jurors when you're doing your jury selection? Here in the South, we call it voir dire, but I think elsewhere people may call it voir dire and other things. But when you're doing jury selection, how do you weed out people that might have a preconceived notion because they've seen all this on TV? You
have to make them comfortable enough to tell the truth about what they think, so that they you know, I might say what I would probably say in a situation like this, if the judge gave me any leeway to speak, is just that, you know, a lot of us have heard about the case. I don't expect you to have lived in a bubble. You know, there's things that I may have made assumptions about initially because she's been accused of this, but like, can you leave room for the possibility that you're wrong? Is really what you're hoping, that you have people who are willing to listen to you. And if you're credible enough with them, that they would be willing to change their mind. But I do think also making them feel comfortable. Like sometimes you see somebody and you think to yourself, like, there's just no way that this person's innocent for whatever life experience. Maybe you hate your own mother. I don't know. You know, people come with their own issues. And so if you look at Donna Adelson and think to yourself, like, I just can't, I would rather know that. I thank you for that. And not making them feel uncomfortable if that's how they feel. You kind of give them the ticket out. They don't want to
Ashleigh, you got connections down there. You've picked a lot of juries. True Crime Wifey, who, by the way, is a new channel member. Thank you. And before I forget, let me just say thanks to everybody who supports this channel. Just being here, liking and subscribing helps support this channel. Also, through super chats and other types of support, it really helps me be able to continue to bring this content. So I want to take just a minute to thank everybody for that. True Crime Wifey, I remember, was from last weekend, was a new member, and I appreciate that. And also Kat Not Williams also rejoined today. Thank you very much. Ashleigh, but I wanted to talk to you about, so she says that she's a local. She says a lot of people don't know about the case, at least that in depth. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that's definitely what you're going to see here. I think the South Florida area, the Miami area, I mean, this is called Broward County, and Broward County is not Miami, it's South Florida. So it's, you know, they go by their county name for Broward if you're from Broward. But that area has seen a lot of news and a lot of press about this, and they all know about it. But in Tallahassee, it's a little bit different. So there are Tallahassee news stations, but a lot of it, you know, Panama City, you may be getting it from. You may even be getting Jacksonville news. You might be getting Pensacola news. You might be getting Dothan, Alabama news. So you've got to think about that area in Tallahassee. And I see True Crime Wifey said, you know, 30,000 plus have moved in the past few years. That's true. So it's definitely a growing area. This happened 11 years ago. So, you know, their news is not going to be the same news that you see in South Florida. So I think you will have a lot of jurors who maybe haven't heard about it. It happened 11 years ago. It's not being played out as much as it is in South Florida, where it's going to be talked about a whole lot more, and this family's a whole lot more present just because they were well known. But you're also going to get a lot of hardworking folks in that county, in the Tallahassee County. So you're going to get more conservative and hardworking folks, and you're going to have to talk to them about whether or not they can set aside what they have heard, but whether or not they can be fair and impartial and open. And that's really what jury selection is about, just making sure that someone is going to come in there and actually be able to listen to the facts and actually fairly apply that. You just want someone who isn't going to automatically side with one side or the other. And I think it's important also for viewers to kind of understand how jury selection even works. It's a misnomer to say jury selection. It's a process of deselection. I know, Rachel, we always tell our clients that, you know, we sort of have this little primer before we go to trial on, hey, let's actually teach you what jury selection is. It's deselection. And so what Phil was mentioning, where they're going to bring 50 people in to qualify them, what that means is there's certain things that automatically get you cut from jury selection. So for example, if you're older, if you're a certain age, you can exempt yourself from jury selection. If you have young kids at home, you can be exempt from jury selection. If you've moved, you can be exempt from jury selection. If you have a felony, you can be exempt from jury selection. There's a lot of different reasons that people might get a jury summons and not actually eligible to serve. So that's what they're doing. It's called qualification. They're trying to qualify the jury. Once they get those jurors qualified, then the lawyers get to ask all these personal questions and sort of figure out what, if it's the right fit, if the person holds a preconceived notion. And I can tell you, I've had some crazy situations with jurors who walked in. I think actually this was a case Phil and I tried probably 15 years ago. I don't know if you remember this, Phil, but we had a gentleman come in and he actually had a swastika on his lapel. And I'm still convinced to this day that gentleman did that because he wanted to get off a jury service. But that's what you're dealing with. Yeah. You know, you're dealing
I do remember that.
Yeah. Like I know.
You got people that sometimes you get stealth jurors too. They want to be on the jury because they've got some preconceived idea. Maybe they want to, make sure that somebody gets acquitted or found guilty, and they'll lie and not tell the truth. And you got to weed those people out.
So I'm just thinking really quick about this case, you know, like strategically, if I'm her attorney, and I kind of almost, whether or not they've really heard about the case, I don't know if that's like my biggest danger point with the jury, because like they're going to hear about the case, and like it's more those underlying issues. Like, do they think, like, are they willing to attribute it that far removed from an actual murder? Like somehow asking questions that would try to get to the deeper issues. Like, do you have a controlling I mean, I would like to know more about their own mothers and issues with their mothers, because if they're people that love their mother and could never imagine, you know, that their mother is very protective of them and they like that, but they could imagine their mom saying things like that, but they would never want their mom to be convicted of murder for it. What a dream juror. I need to like figure out who they are, whether or not they've heard about the case. It's all going to come out, and it's all really rough stuff for Donna.
I see, Phil, I see a lot of the folks in the comments, and I got to figure out how to respond. It says I have to join YouTube or something. So I need to figure that out so I can respond. But I read them, and a lot of folks are like, what kind of questions do lawyers ask? I've always wanted to know what kind of questions lawyers ask. I think every lawyer is a little bit different, and I'm sure Rachel and Phil have their sort of questions they ask. But some of it is just following where the panel goes or leads you. And I like meeting people. I like learning people's stories. And so, you know, you're having a conversation, and they're on the spot, and you're just kind of trying to follow where that goes. But I have some interesting questions I always like to ask folks just to get them talking, because people don't like to talk. But I ask people about their hobbies. One of the things I like to know is if they like to travel. And to me, that tells me a lot of things, because, you know, people who like to travel are used to different things, experiencing different things, you know, exploring different cultures maybe. And what type of travel? Do you want to just read a crime novel on the beach? Do you want to go explore something and meet new people? It just tells you how their thought process works, and, you know, what their comfort zone is and how they get out of that comfort zone. The other thing that you probably see a lot of lawyers ask, and I'm sure you guys all ask this too, is what type of job they have. Like if they have, and it's not that we care what their job is actually, it's do they manage people? You know, are they a go along, get along? Are they going to easily be pushed around in that jury room? Or are they someone that's going to stand on their own 2 feet if they really believe in whatever my position is? So, you know, you're learning a lot about people in a very short amount of time, which is definitely an art form.
And so really quick, 2 interesting things that I want to say just on that note. I love jury selection. It's my favorite part of trial, probably, because I love meeting people. I don't know what a shot girl is, so I clearly don't like go out at night, but I do. But like my social hour is maybe like jury selection. So I love talking to people. One of the things that I learned from my Jerry Spence, who passed away this past week, I went to the Trial Lawyers College years ago, and something that he taught us to do, if the judge will allow it, because that's a whole different issue. Yeah. Judges sometimes do not allow you to ask any question that isn't directly related to the case or what they've decided, but you admit something about yourself. Like I have an overbearing mother. For example, I talk to my mom 4 to 5 times a day. She's also a lovely, maybe a little bit controlling. I love her very much. She might be watching right now. But Donna Adelson, I mean, I could see my mother. It's a little bit, there's some similarities. She might be a verbal processor. I love my mother, but that doesn't mean that she committed murder. And so I feel like protective of her. Does anyone else have a mother like that? And if I could get them to then raise their hands from there. So that I like to do that. You admit something about yourself. Like I thought when I met my first client, I definitely thought they were guilty. How many of you think he's guilty? If I say it first, usually they'll do it. The other thing is that when you like what Ashleigh's saying about who's in the jury room is going to stand up, you're really listening for how they answer the question, how many words they use.
Misty makes a comment here I want to address real quick. By the way, I'm trying to watch the comments and listen to my guests here and follow along, but I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. Some of them catch my eye, and the ones that, if you have a question, if you'll just start with the word question, then that'll catch my eye and I'll know that it's a question. And of course, supers are automatically starred, and I will see those too, because they show up in a different part of my screen and can get to those pretty easy. But Misty points out this is a weird case. Donna isn't the murderer herself, and the case is mostly circumstantial. And I think that's true. But now I want to explain to you, with the help of my colleagues here, why it doesn't matter that she didn't pull the trigger. So let's see, my microphone's all right. Mic's still on, so I'm just going to cover us up. But count one is it says that in Leon County, it says she committed murder by shooting with a firearm and killing. So it alleges that she was the shooter. If you read it literally, count two, it says that Donna Adelson did agree, conspire, combine, or confederate with Charles Adelson and others. Count three says that Donna Adelson solicited the other people, Charles and the other co-conspirators, to commit murder. So what you have, if you look at that in reverse order, you got the solicitation, which is where you basically reach out to people and ask them to work on some crime with you. And when they agree, then you've got a conspiracy. And the moment that agreement to do something illegal coalesces together, and then as soon as that happens and somebody takes some step in furtherance of the conspiracy, any small step will do, then the crime of conspiracy is complete. Now, the object of the conspiracy, in this case, murder, hadn't happened yet, but it did happen allegedly later. And so when you have a conspiracy, it is said that the acts of one person, one co-conspirator, are the acts of all. So she is charged as if she was the person who pulled the trigger. And yes, her involvement is circumstantial. And so, we've got prisons in the United States that are chock full of people that are convicted on powerful circumstantial evidence. And I want to get y'all's thoughts. Ashley, I'll start with you. I mean, what do you think about circumstantial evidence and how damning it is, or how maybe helpful it could be if you're a defense counsel?
Well, a lot of times it's more helpful than, direct evidence. I mean, I hate it because, I think that you should, I think it should have a different level of culpability, and not all states agree with me on that. Because you think just inherently someone may have changed their mind. And so you always want to think that they wouldn't have actually pulled the trigger. So if they set something in motion, you're thinking, well, maybe they would have stopped in the middle, maybe they would have had second thoughts, and it doesn't really account for that. But what happens with conspiracy, we call it also party to a crime. If you are doing anything that helps the crime happen, before, during, or after, then unfortunately you are just as guilty as the person that pulled the trigger, and you get the exact same punishment. And so, people don't really understand that a lot of times, especially jurors. And you can't explain to a juror how serious a charge is, and they think, oh, well, attempt or conspiracy is going to be a lower charge, it's lesser, and it's not. It's the exact same type of punishment. It's hard as a defense lawyer when you have a conspiracy to defend against it. It's not as easy as saying you have the wrong person. Because there's not that clear evidence that you're able to say, oh, well, you've got the wrong person. Oh, well, you've got the wrong, you've got whatever, the DNA, anything like that. I mean, these are circumstantial things where you're linking little tiny pieces together. But motive is the most important. So we're going to see a lot of focus in this case on motive, whether or not the state proves motive. You need that in a circumstantial case.
Yeah.
Just the idea of intent. And I think party to a crime and conspiracy. I mean, some of the cases that haunt me the most are the results that I've got for people who I really felt, quite honestly, like their intent was not the same as the intent of the people who may have actually perpetuated, whatever crime they were charged with, like they were their driver. And, I guess like if you're somebody who's farther away from the actual commission of the crime, I think that there is a decent argument that you actually didn't intend and would never have actually committed that charge. And you're hoping that people can understand. I mean, we've all probably said, I want to kill this person. I've probably said it. I mean, I'm sure I have. If somebody then took that and did something with it, I would really hate if I was found guilty because I didn't actually mean for that to happen. That's literally in my opinion, her only defense here. But I think as we'll get through, this podcast today, I think some of her behavior is mostly her behavior after the fact that's really made her criminal intent or the motive so clear. And that's what the defense is going to have to
Well, that's a great segue to get into that. And Roxanne points out, Roxanne can be our honorary producer today for pointing that out. There are texts, emails, and wiretaps. So let's go back to, I forget what year, maybe it was 2016, I want to say, or maybe thereabouts. Someone in the chat.
That was yesterday in my mind.
Someone in the chat will correct me if it's not 2016, I'm sure. But there's this thing called the bump, right? Have y'all heard about the bump? Okay, so what we have is we've got law enforcement. The case wasn't exactly cold, but they were hitting some roadblocks, and they were trying to develop. I think they had a pretty good idea that they thought that Donna, the mom, was involved, and they wanted to try to shake the trees and see what falls out a little bit. So an undercover officer bumps into Donna when she's out and about conducting her business or whatever she's doing on this particular day. And let's just take a look at how this goes.
Excuse me, Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? Just want to give you this. Listen. You scared. No, don't be scared. Listen, just want to let you know that we know that your family has been taking care of Katie and her friend Luto for quite some time after your problem up north has been resolved. And I want to let you know that my brother, he's incarcerated. He helped your family with this problem you guys had up north. And we want to make sure that he's going through some rough times. And we want to make sure that you take care of what he's going through the way you're taking care of Katie and Tuto. Well, this will explain it. Thank you.
All right, so let me get everybody added back here. So you see, that's Donna, and she is she's been approached by the undercover, and the undercover, you heard what he said. He says basically, I'm the brother of, one of these hired killers, and he needs to be taken care of, and you need to pay some money and all this. And so what she doesn't say is, she doesn't say, I'm sorry, who are you? I don't know what you're talking about. What is this? I don't know what and then she doesn't call the police. She's got a lot of lawyer friends, people she knows. She doesn't call a lawyer. Ashleigh, have you ever handled a case where the police use some kind of undercover tactic like that to try to see how somebody would behave when they're accused of this? She was essentially being accused by that undercover cop of being a co-conspirator, right? And you want to see how she acts when she's being accused.
Right. And that's exactly what they're doing, setting a trap just to see how she acts. But how she acts could be interpreted in multiple different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you had nothing to do with it and someone came up to you, that would kind of scare you, and and different people have different interactions with law enforcement, but not everybody would call the police if they were scared. There's a lot of society that would not call the police, and that maybe would be too scared to talk to them. So I don't think her reaction is a slam dunk. I think it can be judged either way, but I do think they were putting out those feelers just to see what she would do. It would have been a lot more damning if she had paid him, or if she had made a phone call to try to, do something about this. The fact that she ignored it, I think, can be sort of taken both ways. And I hope it's not something that the judge lets the jury see, because it's confusing and it can totally.
It's coming in. It's coming in.
Starting. Though.
No, well, look, hold on.
That's great for the defense.
I'm gonna have to disagree with Ashleigh here a little bit, because there's more to it. Because I only played you half, because if you hear what I'm about to play next, which is this will show how she actually handled the situation. She called her son Charlie. This is before Charlie's conviction. So what does Charlie do? We'll have a look.
Hello? Hola, diga. Hello, diga. Who is this? Who's this? Someone's been calling my family and trying to figure out who this is. In reference to what, man? Someone by the name of Sammy called. Yeah, that's me, man. All right, what's going on? Well, what's going on is my brother Tato. Okay, my brother Tato has not been taken care of. His family's not been taken care of. I talked to a dentist. Why are you calling me? Who are you? I gave the number to a lady. I don't know Tato. You don't know Tato? I'm sure you know Katie and Tuto. They've been taken care of since the family problem been taken care of up north.
I don't know who you are.
You don't? Well, this isn't going away, my friend, because let me tell you something. I was at Broward with Tato, and he told me the whole story. He told me nobody was taking care of him. Nobody was taking care of his family. The family was taking care of Katie and Tuto, and nothing's been taken care of with Tato. So we know what's going on. And Tato needs to be taken care of. Do the right thing. The lady already has the paperwork. She knows what I'm talking about. We know Katie. We know Tuto. We know they've been taken care of.
All right, let me look at
no more f***ing around, man. No more f***ing around. This ain't going away. You guys need to do the right thing for Tato. That's my brother, man. That's my brother, and he needs to be taken care of. His family needs to be taken care of, just like Katie and Tuto have been taken care
of. I've never met these people, but let me call you back, okay?
That's bullshit, man. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know this lady. I don't know your relationship with this lady, but we know what the f*** is going on. This ain't going away. Take care of Tato just like you take care of Katie and Tuto, man.
Let me call you back.
Let me call you back. Let me call you back. So when you take that was, I think, 8 or 9 days after the bump took place. And so, what was handed to Donna was this phone number for this supposed, brother of the hitman. So Charlie thinks he's calling. He doesn't know he's calling a cop. He thinks he's calling the brother of the hitman. And he tries in my opinion, some half-hearted denials. I don't know who Katie is. I don't know these people. But then he leaves it off with like, all right, let me call you back. Because what they're demanding money. And he's talking about this problem that was taken care of up north. So we're talking about South Florida versus Tallahassee is the up north. And the problem was Dan Markel. Ashley, when you see both ends of it, does that change your take on what this circumstantial evidence means when you put it together?
I still don't think it should be admitted in front of the jury because it's confusing. And, one of the reasons that they stop evidence from being in is if it's confusing, and it confuses the issues. I think it's confusing. I think we could argue for an hour over why he responded that way, why she responded that way. It's all speculation. And without a slam dunk, some statement that makes it admissible, I just think it's confusing to the jury. I think Rachel could probably spin it for the defense if she had to. I
want to spin it. I said, yeah. bring that in. Guess what? Donna's confused. She gave it to her son, Charlie, because she figured it was something that he had to do with. And he's the one that called. And he's a moron for calling, but that's not Donna.
And I think, Phil, I think if one of you was playing prosecution, one of you was playing the defense, you could do a great job arguing both, relevance on both ends. But at the end of the day, I don't think it proves anything. I think it's confusing.
Well, there's other bits and pieces. I think they've got emails between Donna and Charlie before Charlie makes that phone call and stuff. And I think it's come in some of the other trials, and it's been ruled.
Oh, I'm sure it's coming in.
Yeah. And also Charlie's on the witness list, so I think he's going to testify. I mean, everybody's on the witness list. I mean, and so.
Wait, who's he on the Charlie's on the defense or the? I'm curious, just because, what is he gonna? Who's he helping?
I have to check my.
Oh, why would he help the government at this point? They put him in prison.
Yeah.
Y'all talk amongst yourselves about what Charlie can testify to while I check my show notes.
He already testified. So at his trial, he testified. So I'm not sure what he thinks he would be adding. I mean, his defense didn't work. So I wouldn't want.
He tried the same defense that you guys were just making so well, and it didn't work. I mean, he tried to make those same arguments. So the evidence against much of the evidence that we're going to see in this case has appeared in previous trials.
Right.
So Tallahassee police said that Donna Adelson was a prime suspect way back in the day in 2016. So they have they're going to use a lot of the same evidence from some of the other trials. At Charlie Adelson's trial, this came in, and it certainly helped move the needle, I think. And I think it's going to come in again. Who's going to be taking the stand? Okay. In this case, for the first time, all three of the Adelson children are on the witness list. And there's one of them that's estranged even, but all three Adelson children could take the stand. Wendy, who the state considers an uncharged co-conspirator, will return to the stand and testify under limited immunity deal as she has in all the other previous trials. Of course, she denies involvement in it, but she's been given use immunity, and so they can compel her testimony. There are indications that her oldest brother, Rob, who's been estranged from the family, could also be a state's witness. I'm not sure what he would testify to, but we shall see. Charlie Adelson, who testified in his own defense last year that he was being extorted by the two killers through his then girlfriend, and that his mom, who was subsequently a victim of ruse blackmail by operation of the FBI. That's the bump we just saw. And so Charlie has been transported. Listen to this. He's been brought to the Leon County Jail from a South Dakota prison. Where I don't know. Anybody know why he's been in South Dakota?
It's a good question. They must have done some prisoner swap. Florida does that. Florida will let you do a prisoner swap. So if they have a prisoner that wants to come down to Florida, maybe grandma's down there or something, they can do a prisoner swap. So there's a lot of inmates that do it.
He and his mom are now both booked into the Leon County Jail. And it says he's on the defense witness list. Whether they call him, who knows, but he's on their list. Donna Adelson has said she's going to testify. And then, of course, you got the various law enforcement witnesses. So key witnesses on the list include the FBI agent who arrested her at the airport, the FBI agent who posed King's gang buddy of Rivera. That's the guy in the bump. His name is Oscar Jimenez. And so he is on the witness list to testify.
I was just thinking Harvey hasn't testified at any of these trials.
No, he hasn't. And I want to talk about Harvey at some point. But we have, now might be a good time to, well, let's just say this is not, let's just watch this together. This is not Donna's first time in the limelight.
I'll meet Donna Adelson from Coral Springs, Florida. I want to hear all about you, Donna. Let's go.
Well,
like the hair.
I'm a domestic coordinator.
A domestic coordinator?
Yes. I'm responsible for the activities, classes, and lessons of my son Robert, who is 16, Charlie, who is 12, Wendy, who is 10, my husband Harvey, who's in the audience, and my dog Sam.
Donna.
F.
Yes.
Mischief maker.
Yeah, that's it, Donna.
Oh, wow.
Out the shoulder pad.
Mischief. So the domestic coordinator Donna, and I think that was 1982 or 83. Wheel of Fortune. She solved it. And so fast forward to today. I mean, her life has certainly not gone in the direction that she wanted it to go in. There's just so many things that you can look at in this case. The motion, the last pretrial hearing, there's now a motion pending by Wendy Adelson to have her subpoena. Now she's been subpoenaed by the prosecutor and the defense. Okay, and so Wendy has filed a motion to it's to quash the defense subpoena so that she only has to testify under the state's subpoena where she's immunized for. Now the defense will get to cross-examine her, but only as pertains to the questions that are asked. It's, in other words, they're going to be kind of limited. If they can have her under their own subpoena, they could broaden the scope of her testimony, but she's not immunized for that. So why can't both sides subpoena her, Ashleigh?
They can, but I think they are at risk of having it quashed. But, the defense has a right to bring a defense. And if part of that defense is marching Wendy up the stand, whether she takes the fifth or not, that's part of their defense. But what happens is that the state has given her use and derivative use immunity. So what that means is that whatever she testifies to and whatever that leads to, meaning if she says something that causes them to go search, a warehouse or something, that all cannot be used against her. So anything that comes from her testimony, but the state has to call her for that to happen. So if the defense calls her, then she doesn't have any immunity. And so this is a very slippery slope for them. If the state doesn't need Wendy, they're not going to want to call her. The defense doesn't have the power to give a witness immunity, but they do have a right to call that witness. So they should be allowed to call Wendy to the stand. If she pleads the fifth in front of the jury, she pleads the fifth in front of the jury.
Well, they've already said they're not going to allow that. They're not going to allow the defense to call her just for her to plead the fifth in the presence of the jury. Well, Rachel, why don't judges let that happen? Why don't judges let people take the fifth in front of a jury?
Well, because I think that creates some implications about their involvement, and then I think a jury would then believe that person would be incriminating themselves by answering the prosecutor's questions. And if you,
this is a prepaid collect.
Set for trial coming up. Hold on, guys.
He's having fun.
Go ahead. I got some more sound I'm gonna play. I'm just getting it loaded up. Go ahead.
No, I don't even know what I was saying. I think I was basically saying, so if I don't even remember, it wasn't even important.
Yeah, no, it was. You were talking about them pleading the fifth in front of a jury. Basically, it happened a lot in the Young Thug case. But what ends up happening is the jury then believes that whatever story. What I was going to say. So here I am. I'll let Ashleigh talk. I think that they should be able to plead the fifth in front of a jury. And I've had, if anyone who watched the Ryan and Bo Duke trial, I had Bo Duke plead the fifth in front of the jury. I think it's powerful, especially if you have evidence implicating the other person. And I think a defense has a right to call any witnesses. I mean, it's in our Constitution. We have the right to subpoena witnesses to testify at a trial in our own defense. And so when judges tie people's hands and don't let them call a witness, I think the negative inference from that is something that can come back on appeal. Because if you walk it through, let's say that I want to call Wendy. Okay, I'm the defense lawyer. I want to call Wendy. I don't know if she's going to plead the fifth or not. She may say she's gonna, but I don't know until she takes the stand. And the jury knows that I have the ability to subpoena witnesses. So if I don't bring Wendy to the stand, they may be left wondering, what was I scared of? Why didn't I call her to the stand? So that's why whenever judges try to limit this, I think it's a bad move.
In this case.
Go ahead, Rachel. But I have a follow-up question for Ashleigh.
In this case, if she got on the stand, it would not help. I don't believe it would help Donna. If I'm thinking, strategically, I agree with you.
Right.
There are people that I would love to call to the stand and have them plead the fifth in front of a jury for my defense.
And that's what I'm thinking. The defense must have some type of. They've got to have some strategy, which it definitely creates an inference that Wendy did something wrong or that she has some vital information. They've got to have some strategy for why they want to.
Wendy's her daughter. This is what I wish it was somebody that was not related to them who had a bone to pick with Dan Markel, but it's not. It's her own daughter. So you're like, it's all.
Well, they got a couple of giant bankers boxes on Wendy Adelson. This is a picture of them taking one of these boxes into court back on August the 8th at the final pretrial hearing. Some journalists in the courtroom snapped that picture, so they've clearly got something related to Wendy in their strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Ashleigh, so you mentioned another high-profile trial that you and I were very involved in, but in different ways for different reasons. You mentioned the Ryan and Bo Duke saga. Can you give us a 3-minute overview of what that case was and what you're talking about? Because I think for some of because I want to get with you at some point, and I want to do at least one, if not 2 or 3 live streams just to cover that saga, which had to do with the murder of school teacher Tara Grinstead, which was a cold case here in the state of Georgia for a long time.
Okay, I'll do my best to give you a 3-minute version.
A little off topic, but it's worth
without talking super fast. I know I threw it out there, but there's so many similarities. Picking a jury in a town where everybody already knows about the case. Mm-hmm. So Tara Grinstead had gone missing, and she had been missing, and it was an unsolved homicide for many, many years, several decades, 2 decades at least. And it was the largest case file in GBI history, which is our version of the FBI here in Georgia. And there was a podcast, a cold case sort of podcast that came about and brought some new, news about it, sort of dug up some things. And they ended up making a couple arrests. And Bo Dukes was the first gentleman that the police interviewed. And he tried to pin it on my client, Ryan Duke. And it was one of those cases that was just awful because it had been unsolved for so long and this family hadn't had closure. And it was, a relatively well-liked teacher from this area. But we ended up going to trial because my client, Ryan, was charged with murder. And our entire theory in our entire case was that Bo had done it. They picked the wrong horse. And I still believe that. The jury believed that. But we had a lot of these same elements where we had a jury that had heard about the case. There was no way around that. And so, the jury selection in Adelson reminds me a lot of the jury selection in Duke because we're trying to pick a jury from people who definitely know about the case. But we also had that situation where the person that we believed did it was under our subpoena. And
yeah, they had the right. Well, there was two. They basically got the two guys correct. One being the actual killer and one being the helper after the fact.
Right.
And so your theory was that they got him reversed. In other words, your client was not the killer, but he was the helper after the fact, and the jury agreed.
Right. Exactly. And we were able to call Bo to the stand, which is one of the things that reminds me of calling Wendy to the stand, because it was difficult to work through that process, not knowing if he was going to plead the fifth. Even moments before he told me he wasn't, going back and forth with someone who's a liar. He was a convicted liar at that point. So he's been convicted of lying. He's telling us, I'm going to testify, I'm not. Us wanting to be able to present, a constitutional defense where we can subpoena witnesses. There was just a lot at play. And it was a really difficult call, I think, for the judge. I'm glad that the judge let Bo testify.
I was in the courtroom and it was quite the spectacle to see that jackass being taken in there in leg irons and chains and orange jumpsuit and having him just take the fifth to all the questions that you asked. It was a very powerful moment. But to your point, that there's a similar issue here where this is a crime that has been the community has been living this and thinking about it and hearing it in their local news for a long time now. And True Crime Wifey had pointed out that there's a lot of new people that have moved into the area. So it's not, and of course, Tallahassee is bigger than Ocilla, Georgia. That's a really small town. So you do have some, it is a little bit more attenuated, but it's similar. The idea that you got a lot of people in the community that watch the news and have probably been following the case.
But they don't have this type of crime. If you think about it, I mean, since Ted Bundy, they haven't really had a lot of high profile, homicide type cases. Tallahassee is just, it's a college town, it's a government town, but it's a capital, a state capital that is not a large town. So, it's a kind of a sleepy Southern town. It's quaint. This is something that would have rocked the community, and the community definitely loves and supports Florida State University. This is a professor. So, it would have rocked the community, but homicide cases are not common there. You got DUIs and drunk, students.
Yeah. Well, this is also the kind of case that got national attention. It was on I think 20 and Dateline, and it's been going on for so long that it's not really like native. It's not like a native case. I don't even think Dan Markel, he's not from there originally. So you got a bunch of people that are kind of moving, are coming there, and this crime is happening for that reason. But the whole thing is so ironic with her having to, to be up there. All she wanted to do was be in South Florida. I was just thinking too, we haven't heard anything from Wendy's two sons. I believe she has two sons, right?
Yeah. And I have no idea where they are. And honestly, I feel so terrible for these kids but I'm so glad that they haven't been sort of made a big part of this whole thing. Since we're on the topic of circumstantial evidence, though, I want to just get into just a little bit more. We've got this conversation between Donna and Charlie, and Charlie's in jail. I guess it's after his conviction, and they talk on the phone a lot. And as we tell our clients, don't talk about the case. It's all recorded. Okay. So they're on the phone and they have a chit chat, and I'm going to fast forward through some of it because what's really interesting is what Donna says after Charlie leaves the phone call, but the line is still open. I guess he doesn't hang it up all the way, so it still is recorded. So let me play just a little bit of this, because this is some circumstantial evidence that gets you into Donna's head a little bit about what she's thinking and maybe what plans she might be making.
Incarcerated individual at the Leon County Jail. This call is not private. It will be recorded and may be monitored. If you believe this should be a private call, please hang up and follow facility instructions to register this number as a private number. To accept charges and consent to this recorded call, press 1.
Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hey,
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, last thing I heard was you said, and the chief, and then it just went through.
He was supposed to fly. He's the same guy who said he was going to call Dan back when I first got here. Never called him back. But Chief's back. Like, he's the chief of the whole jail. So come by and check me out.
So he has not been there yet.
He has not, but the psychologist, like PhD, whatever she is, she came by, and I said, listen, I'm fine. I'm getting claustrophobic. Like,
sure.
Like, used to looking outside of a window, inches out into the pod, and this is like here. You're sitting in like
a block.
It's like a same type cell as I had before, but I could look out the window into the pod. Here, it's like a box.
Yeah.
All right. So he doesn't like prison. Let's fast forward to.
Unless Charlie's on trial for his life. And that could happen.
Okay. So we are into the part, I think, here where Donna is talking. And so the call is closed. She has other people who are present in, I guess she's in her house. So these are people that are that are in the room with her, and the phone is still recording these things. So let me make sure I get the right part.
A couple of months ago, we're good. I'm good. I went into this weekend because I said something that made her feel like I had enough, and I'm not going to watch. If the trial doesn't go well, I know what I need to do. Now, something was wrong because we lived here 9 years. She's never once just come over and said, I need to talk to you.
She's talking about Wendy and how Wendy's kind of not coming over and not being a part of her life. Some of this is inaudible.
Couch right there. I was sitting here, and she didn't say, "Look, Mom, this is a horrible time for all of us. Charlie's on trial for his life. We're all aggravated. But if this is what you're thinking, just sat there. And she said, "Listen, you're suicidal. I'm going to take correct you." So I said, "I'm not suicidal. I'm fine. See the boys tomorrow night." Sunday night.
Yeah, she says she's not suicidal. She's fine. She's going to see the boys tomorrow night.
Now, am I suicidal? No. Do I want to go to sleep and not see my son? I do. Perfectly honest, I do. And we'll do it yet. If we do it together, leave a note. They'll know when to come and get us.
Make a note. We'll do it together. They'll know when to come and get us. You get it?
Yeah.
She's figuring out some kind of exit strategy.
And we'll do it together. The boy. Look, got to make a decision at some point. So after speaking to Dan this morning and knowing what they're thinking up there, I don't know if we'll make it out in time. I really don't. But Dan said, you might, or you might do all of it, get to the airport, and they'll stop us. And that could happen. It could happen. I don't know, but it's worth a try. I've tried and tried and tried. I don't know what I'm doing. I've lost it, but I don't know what I'm doing. And we have to do that stuff for Roman for the argue with that.
What do you think? How is it more to be done?
With stipulations. stipulations as to who's in charge and
She's talking about stipulations about who's in charge. It's her and her husband's like personal affairs and how they're going to set it up. Now we can't say the S word because this is YouTube, but they talk about something else too. And I promise we'll get to it. Some of this is inaudible. You really can't hear what some of the people in the background are saying, but some of the things that she says are pretty incriminating.
And everything to go in and under and the trustee. And some of the trustee and the guardian. Guardian is the other. Then the trustee on 33 that somebody would be watching. Yeah, well, we want someone to take care of it. Guardian of the person. So,
I would make some effort to respond if someone's called.
if she would do that,
I could sit here with you and say, would you do that? But I can't because no response. So do you tell her that I could call George?
No, I don't get it.
I don't know how to get in touch with her. So I said, let me ask George. So I said, George. I can't get in touch with her.
Talking about Wendy, she can't get in touch with
her lawyer if it's about and Rebecca, not about the case. I have
She's mad that Wendy's not talking to her.
When I said, I just got off with Charlie, he's worried about you. He wants to know why. Oh, because I said, yeah, we know you never ask anything about your brother. And she doesn't. And she told me it's because her lawyer.
She's reading texts.
But we found out it's not true. But we just got off the phone with him.
My attorney said no. And he asked her attorney. Her attorney said,
I never told her that.
But I've never confronted them.
No. So I wrote this last night. We know you never ask anything about your brother. This is 8:00 last night. But we just got off the phone with him. And the first thing he asked was, how's Wendy holding up? I didn't have the heart to tell him that you never called us or asked about him. I just said, we weren't up to phone calls right now. Everyone looks to protect you. I bet you've got a lot to think about.
Everybody looks to protect you. This is she's reading a text that she sent to Wendy. Everybody's looking to protect Wendy. From what?
But then she didn't answer. But then I got another call from Charlie night, and I said, just got off the phone with Charlie. He's worried about you. He wants to know why we didn't speak. I told him a lie. I said, we're only speaking with you and Dan right now. I couldn't bear to tell him the truth. Your sister never even called us, is the truth. So she says this morning, I thought she'd be racing over here last night. Yeah. Dear Mom, I know you are upset by the verdict, but the anger directed at me is not justified. I don't know how much anger. We don't. I'm not responsible in any way for Charlie's situation. I am not guilty because I did not do anything wrong. And I was.
That's a text back, I guess, from Wendy. Sounds to me like she probably had her lawyer because she's very careful in choosing her words in response back to her mom.
Not involved in any way with Danny's death. Here she was. When I was interviewed by the police and testified in court, I told the truth as I was required to do. I cannot control how the prosecutor used my statements at Charlie's trial. Again, I didn't say that. Also, as you know, my lawyer has advised me not to talk to my family or anyone else about this case. No, about the case, which is true. We've never done it. I followed his advice despite your disagreements with this guidance. Please do not text me about this case anymore. Not about the case, is it? Not what I said. About her brother, and that he wants, how are you, Wendy? How's my sister holding up?
Oh, she's such a piece of work. It's
Well,
just
and remember, and we're about to get to the good stuff, but remember now, they took her phone and all of her electronics when she was arrested. And I just wonder what other kind of, what else is she texting and what's she saying? What other kind of treasure trove of evidence was found on those phones? But I want to get to the part where she's talking about Vietnam.
If you have anything further to say about the case, please go through our lawyers. Right now, I have to be singularly focused on taking care of the boys during this difficult time. So I wrote back, okay, we have no desire to speak with you about the case. I guess Dad and I are just shocked that you didn't think of coming to see us or even calling us. We are your parents. We are and have always been there for you and the boys. None of what we wrote matters about the case. That's over. I just want you to know how many times Charlie is asking about you. Not only do you not ask about us, but not one question about Charlie, right?
What a guilt trip. Jesus
We
Christ.
will need to give you some information shortly, and we need some business.
She has perfected that.
Oh my God.
Please let us know if you can be of any help. I have a safe here. I want to give her codes. We're going to be gone. I want her to have all this information.
We're going to be gone. I have a safe here. I want her to have all this information.
I have the cemetery property. I want her to see all that. I want her to have all these papers and the wills. I want her to see all this. So please let us know if you can be of any help. The other thing is the visa, which she would know about. No, I said we need some business assistance. Please let us know. If not, we'll try to find someone who can help us. This needs an immediate reply so I can start asking other people to help. And then she always gets nervous if we want to talk to her. So I wrote, don't get nervous. Again, nothing, in capital letters, nothing about the case. Just would like to show you some business stuff and personal things. If you can't do it, we must find someone who can. I hope you understand that it has nothing to do with the case. There is no more case. And then I wrote, by the way, you said you have to focus on the boys. Have you told them? So when I got George before, I said to him, because I was over there last night, I said, well, I asked Wendy, but I haven't got any word from her. So did she tell the boys? And he said, she did. Now, I know Ben was very close. He was writing to Charlie all the time. So I said, how are they? Ben was very quiet. He didn't really talk much. He said, Lincoln kind of faced it and said, so he's never coming home. He's never coming back. And so he said it took him 10 minutes and he was into basketball. I said, fine, he's a child. That's okay. I don't want to see them miserable and upset. That's not my goal. I just want to know how are they. So that's what I said earlier to George, because it was technical stuff that I couldn't do on the computer. I think just because we were out of it. So, and he's a computer person. So I said, can you help me with some computer stuff that I can't get done? And he was on some business calls, so that he texted me just before I can be there, maybe 5:30. Would that be good? I said yes, but if I can get stuff done, then it's no.
I told Rick we have the space in the passport.
We have the photos. We have to get them downloaded. And the other thing I don't understand that my daughter could help me with, but we've been looking it up over and over because things change. If there is extradition from Vietnam.
If there's extradition from Vietnam.
Because we've looked at all the places. I mean, I could go to Korea and China, but.
She could go to Korea or China.
Why can't she shut her mouth? And no, I'm serious. How, this is her not turning her phone off?
No, so this was a jail call that didn't disconnect. So the jail system, and so it's like maybe she didn't hang up. Somebody didn't hang up, and the jail system kept recording it.
There's no extradition, but we're looking for places where there's no extradition.
She's her worst enemy. She's her own
She
worst
is.
enemy.
Oh, she's awful.
God, really?
Looking for places where there's no extradition.
Maybe she knows about. Maybe she can look up the extradition issue before we waste our time.
Is she asking Wendy to look up extradition?
My parents were
All right.
She's like, but it's not about the case. But what about extradition? You know, she sinks herself in every single way.
Well, we always say, look, anything you say can and will be used against you in court. So when you put all of this circumstantial evidence together, and there's more, I don't have access to it. I don't have the ability to go through all of it, of course, here in a live stream. And we'll be doing more on this as it unfolds in court. But you know that if we have access to this that we can talk about, the cops have a lot more. And
oh my gosh.
They've got everything that was, you saw that, or you heard about the text that she was reading back and forth to Wendy and talking about extradition. Now, her excuse, by the way, I want to hear what you guys think about this. All right. So, all right, let me just put it this way. All right, we'll start with you, Ashleigh. If this is your client and you're trying to, all right, she's arrested boarding a flight to Vietnam from where there is no extradition treaty. And you've got this evidence where she's researched it and she chooses Vietnam over maybe China. I guess maybe that's a better choice, I suppose. But how do you spin that? How do you spin that in a not guilty way? Because it looks to me like it's knowledge and awareness of guilt, and so there's flight, and that's why the judge is letting it in, is it's being offered as proof that she had an awareness of her guilt. Now, right. Is there another way to look at it if you're defending this case?
Oh, I mean, I would have taken my shoe off and smacked her over the head to make sure she couldn't keep talking. I have literally told clients, if you keep talking, I'm out of here. I cannot help you. I mean, it would have been ugly. There's no way to spin those jail calls. Those are going to be, I mean, those are hard, but I could spin her going to Vietnam, depending on if there's any truth to it. I would just hope and pray that she had some vision board somewhere on her bucket list of Vietnam, and she didn't want to have a, return ticket because they were going to trek some foreign something. I don't know. I would just hope and pray that there was some evidence of that. But those jail calls, I mean, it's that coupled with the one-way ticket, she has really, really made it hard for her defense lawyer.
Rachel, she's your client. How do you spin that call in a non-guilty way?
Well, I think that after her son's guilty verdict, I think she kind of saw the writing on the wall that they were going to go after her next. And I think that she believed that her son was wrongfully convicted. She was scared of being wrongfully convicted. She knew that there were a few different ways to handle this, but she knew that she really didn't want to be exactly where she is right now, which is facing, these murder charges and sitting in jail. And so her options in her mind, not, I guess not having anything to do with her guilt, but what her understanding of what they would be able to do to her is that she could either kill herself to avoid having to deal with this, or her and her husband take a one-way ticket somewhere and hopefully they forget about her. Those are the flight. It's flight from having to go through what she just watched her son go through and didn't think that he deserved to go through. If that's her mindset, doesn't necessarily mean that she's guilty, but I would have really liked her. Ashleigh and I mentioned this earlier. It'd be really nice if she just could have gotten a round trip ticket and just canceled the flight on the way back. You dummy.
Yeah. Well, she actually had a third party buy the ticket so that it wouldn't be directly traceable back to her. So there's that. But the way that, as I understand it, now some of you in the chat know about this case better than we do. And I'm sure you'll let me know if I get this wrong, but I'm going to try to paraphrase what her spin is, or her lawyer's spin. All right. The idea goes like this. All right. I feel like I'm going to be charged. I'm not guilty, but I know they're going to charge me. So I want to go to a non-extradition country so that once they do charge me, I can negotiate the terms of my own surrender, and I won't be stuck in a jail in some third world country somewhere waiting for the extradition process to run its course 2 or 3 years or however long it takes. And so if I'm in Vietnam, they won't take me into custody, and I can directly negotiate the terms of my return to the United States. Now I'm not saying that makes sense or that anybody's going to buy it, but as I understand it, that's kind of the theory. And they had, as I understand it, she and Harvey had previously visited Vietnam and liked it there, but that time they bought a return ticket. But
yeah, just buy the return ticket, make it, some plausible deniability. We were just planning this trip for a long time, and we're planning on coming back. But yeah, she ruins that with the extradition. But all of that is her trying to hide from being arrested, which is what she thinks is going to happen. It's a very, very hard case.
It also depends on how she can explain this. I mean, given the interviews we've seen, it doesn't sound like she's going to be that sympathetic on the stand. But if you could talk to her and if she's sympathetic, I mean, I could imagine a client getting up there and saying, look, I don't trust the justice system. I have seen multiple innocent people get convicted, and I see that they deny bail, and then I can't access my defense lawyers. And so if I was charged, I wanted to be in another country so that I could at least organize my defense without being in custody. And I just don't trust the American system of justice. She could turn it around and try and flip it on the American system of justice and highlight all of the people that have been railroaded by conspiracy cases or something like that. But you got to have a client that's going to be real sympathetic on the stand. And I just don't think that this is that client.
Well, if you're saying that I want to go to Vietnam where there's no extradition treaty because I want to negotiate the terms of my surrender, because I don't want to stay in a jail. Let's just say she was in, help somebody name a country that has an extradition treaty. England. All right, whatever. So she doesn't want to spend time in a foreign prison waiting extradition. You know what? But if she doesn't leave the country, she never has to spend time in a foreign prison waiting extradition either. So the whole thing just doesn't seem very logical at all.
Having your grandkids in Tallahassee would be much more reasonable, wouldn't it?
What's that?
Having your kids in Tallahassee and just living that way for a little bit longer would have been a fair compromise.
Well, they're all down in South Florida.
I know now, but
yeah.
Had she not set all this in motion, I mean, I'm sure having to take a little drive to Tallahassee from South Florida wouldn't be the end of the world compared to this is end of the world for her, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let me just ask you guys to speculate a little bit. What's the chance that Wendy, does Wendy throw her mother under the bus? Or now she said she's going to testify. Donna has, assuming that she does actually testify, is she going to throw Wendy under the bus? And are these two now going at it? Because you saw those texts and they're not exactly on the same page. Are they getting ready to try to fend for themselves and then try to throw the other one away? What's going on?
If Wendy did not have anything to do with this, she has got no love lost for Donna, because whether she liked her ex-husband or not, that woman has ruined Wendy's life. And so I cannot imagine, unless she did it or was, specific, Donna was doing her a solid, I can't imagine. And it just doesn't seem like that. She probably was an overbearing mother who took things into her own hands that she shouldn't have. Wendy, fight it with court, fight it in court. And I doubt that Wendy has a lot of love lost for her mother at this point.
Sounds that way. But, there's Dave Ehrenberg told me the other day when we were talking here inside the law that she being Wendy, now they were divorced and there was this bitter custody battle, and they hated each other. It was pretty obvious. But Wendy turned up very near the murder scene shortly after the murder, when the police were still on the scene, and she was found in the area, dry, and because there was some kind of a traffic backup, and they said, no, you got to go another way. So they've got her there. I guess it's flock cameras or something, but her excuse was, well, I was over there going to a liquor store, even though there's plenty of other liquor stores and even one close to where she was living at the time. So she had some physical proximity to this crime scene shortly after it happened. So,
and I know she was giving information about his whereabouts and things like that. But, if she didn't ask them to do this specifically, I think she's got no love lost for her mother.
Yeah. Well, so, does what some people, I don't think that we can rule out Donna taking the stand and saying, you know what? I didn't have anything to do with this. Now, I became aware of it after it happened. I'm an accessory after the fact.
That's a good defense, actually.
But, and so all these calls about things about Vietnam and all this other stuff is because I was trying to help cover up what Charlie and Wendy did.
Yeah, I was protecting my daughter.
And I'm not, I'm not going down for her.
that is another.
No, it won't.
Not that it's, I mean, it wasn't Donna's husband. I mean, you would think that the person most interested in getting rid of Dan Markel would have been Wendy. So you know, with that as a premise, I mean, it's like she seems to in those calls, she seems very like her daughter should feel guilty for treating her this way after everything that she's done for her. What that means, I think, is it could be worth exploring as a defense.
Well, look, let's go back to the charges. She got 3 counts. One's murder, one's conspiracy, one's solicitation. All of those things, all of those charges, the state's gone all in on Donna being in on this from the get-go, from the very beginning. If she takes the stand and says, I'm not guilty of any of those things, but here's what I did, and it was all after the fact, then they could find her not guilty. They couldn't go back and recharge her for anything later, and she theoretically could skate if a jury believes that. Because look, you know, we lawyers, we try to think, okay, this is the evidence. How do you play the hand that you've been dealt? And if you don't have ironclad proof that Donna made some solicitation for this and entered into this conspiracy before the murders, if the evidence all points to something after the fact, that could be a valid defense. I
Agree.
think. Ashleigh, what do you think?
No, I definitely do. I mean,
Leroy thinks yes.
I was like, whoa, someone definitely agrees. Someone thinks
that's
so.
loud, Leroy.
Gotcha. You know, I was looking at some of the chats, some of the comments in the chats. They it's surprising. There's a lot of folks that think Wendy was involved. I mean, I'm interested to see what's going on with Wendy. There's a reason she hasn't been arrested, though. You know, there's a reason that lady has not been arrested.
Well, but I mean, I agree, Ashleigh. I've wondered the same thing. Let's go back to our cast of characters. They need Wendy to sort of give some context. A lot of people think that Wendy is next. The state has always said she's a potential target. They've also, people haven't ruled out Harvey. Now, I would imagine that I don't really see, I mean, I'm not accusing anybody, but it's just logical to believe that, I mean, if all this stuff's going on around Harvey, he would have had to know something about, but knowing about it after the fact is different. It may not even be criminal to know about it after the fact. Same for Wendy. But the thing about Wendy is all this stuff is going on around her and for her benefit, which is so that she can move the kids down to South Florida. You know, I mean, I got to ask myself, how could she not know about it ahead of time? And how, you know, she's obviously the beneficiary of her ex-husband's death.
Right. She definitely was.
So I think, you know, like LJ is not wrong. There are a lot of additional stuff here, and we can't cover it all right now. We're gonna have to watch the trial. I think we're gonna have some surprises. I'm very interested in this trial. I'm gonna be covering it. We're gonna be covering it here. We're covering it on MK True Crime, which check us out over there as well. And you know, this is really fascinating because, you know, it's obviously it's got the intrigue and all the things that make some of these trials very interesting, but legally, the intellectual part of me that still exists as a lawyer, you know, I'm like, how would I play this? You've got this damning evidence. If I were prosecuting it, how would I spin that to convince a jury that she was aware of it and she knew about it beforehand and she was the mastermind? If I'm the defense, how am I going to try to deflect that and say, well, no, it doesn't prove she's a mastermind. It just means she's trying to, you know, keep her family together. She's looking out for herself. She's whatever. I mean, the money, somebody asked in the comments, and I meant to flag it, but I didn't get to it. Someone asked, how were the hitmen paid? Well, they were paid by Charlie through Catherine. Okay. And the Adelsons are not the kind of folks that would be able to automatically reach out and find a hitman on short notice. But as it just so happens, Charlie's girlfriend is the mother of, I guess, children of some guys in the Latin Kings, and specifically Sigfredo, who is the father of her children, according to Luis, was who was also there, but Sigfredo is the one they're saying pulled the trigger. So it was money. It was $130,000 taken out of Charlie's safe, given to the girlfriend who gave it to her ex, right? But she kept like 30-something thousand, I guess, for herself, is the way the story goes. And there's so many weird things that we can talk about another time. The money was wet. It was stapled together. So the idea that Donna Adelson somehow or somebody literally washed the money, like laundered it, like I guess to maybe get DNA off, remove DNA from it, whatever. So many weird things about this that we just got to see how it all fits together. It's going to be fascinating.
We agree.
All right.
Oh no, it's I can't wait to hear what else comes out.
All right, Ashley, I know you got to go prom dress shopping for your daughter.
No.
So real quick before you,
It's homecoming.
Homecoming season.
Oh, homecoming. I'm saying it's not prom.
You can tell who does the dress shopping in Phil's house.
That's right. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot. I want to ask you real quick, Fulton County, Fani Willis update. What is the status of the appeal? So let me set this up.
Yeah.
The Georgia Court of Appeals, based on all of your work, ruled that Willis is disqualified from the case and she can't take any further action on it. Now, so far, that is the ruling that stands right now as we are discussing this here on August 17th, 2025. Last fall, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say it was a November timeframe, Willis filed a petition for, it's called a writ of certiorari, which is a discretionary appeal. She's asking the Georgia Supreme Court to reverse and overturn the Court of Appeals. Now, it's discretionary. They don't have to hear it. And if they say, no, we're not going to hear it, the Court of Appeals ruling stands. Mm-hmm. And if they say, yes, we'll hear it, that doesn't automatically mean that she's going to win either. She could still lose. But I guess the question for you, Ashley, is when is the Georgia Supreme Court going to decide whether or not they're going to even hear her appeal?
That's the $1 million question. And they don't have a time frame, so they don't have to decide at any specific time. They can take their time because as of right now, the Court of Appeals is the last word on this, and they have said that she's got to be disqualified. So, the Supreme Court not hearing anything, technically, I mean, that's for us because we don't want them, obviously, to review it further. I mean, we're not afraid of it. We think if they did review it further that they're going to agree with us, but most likely they're just going to issue a one-page opinion, without any actual details, just saying that they're not going to hear it. If they did decide to hear it, I think that we would have heard already. So I think most likely they're just not going to, but it does keep the case sort of in a standstill. Right now, Fani Willis is disqualified. Her office is disqualified. Nothing further can happen on the case. So it has been effectively stopped. At this point, I think that's likely to be what's going to happen, what's going to continue, but we'll see. I mean, the Supreme Court could always change their mind.
My sense, and Rachel, feel free to weigh in. My sense is that, I mean, normally they don't wait this long to decide whether to hear a discretionary appeal. Normally you'll know it in a couple of months, maybe, but certainly not 6 or 8 or 9 months later. So I think that the more time goes by, the less likely it is that they will agree to hear her appeal. But I mean, normally courts just don't sit on these petitions. They're going to have to say, yes, we'll hear it, or no, we're not, and clear it off their plate. I can't get my head wrapped around why they haven't done that yet. Rachel, you have a thought?
I honestly don't. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know what's taking so long, but I think whatever momentum she had in this prosecution is now dead.
Well, I think as a practical matter, it is dead, but it's just like we're waiting on the period at the end of the sentence. We got one little piece of it before that whole fiasco is finally over and done with. So
Clyde needs me, so I'm going in a second, but I wanted to show him to everyone, my little Simba. Say hi to everybody, baby. Hi. Say hi, Clydie. He said, I was on the show before I knew I was on the show.
Well, one day you can show him this, you can show him this video and say, hey, look what we were doing together back in the day.
He said, I was a lawyer before I was inside the law before I was inside the law. Thank you guys for having us.
All right, Rachel, we'll see you later.
And I'm a big fan of your MK work.
Great.
MK True Crime. Yeah.
Everyone go watch.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Rachel. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Rachel.
And Ashleigh, and thanks, by the way, to Blurry Lights. Thank you for saying we're an outstanding panel. That's really nice. I appreciate that. Ashleigh, any last words about any of this stuff? I'll give
I saw
you
a lot of people who want to know if, Fani Willis can be investigated. I mean, of course, we have an attorney general. He's busy right now running for governor, so he has not decided to look into Miss Willis, but I think that he should. I have thought he should from the beginning. I think there's a lot of violations, none of the least of which is a violation of the Open Records Act in Georgia is actually a crime. So, and conspiring to do that. We've been talking about conspiracy. So conspiracy to violate the Open Records Act is definitely a crime. So, there's a lot of
hold
things.
on, hang on. Let me. So you had this Open Records case that you won. It was a civil case, and you won. She had to write you a check.
Yes.
And you collected on that check. That's public. That's public knowledge. It was a civil case that you brought because she violated the Open Records law. Fulton County cut you a check for the cost of attorney's fees, which is yourself and your husband John. You guys did a great job. You earned every bit of it and then some. So, but if there's a conspiracy to violate the Open Records law, that is a crime. Is it a misdemeanor or is it a felony?
So the violation of the Open Records Act is actually a misdemeanor. I feel certain after being involved in this indictment that was, that started all of this, the indictment with President Trump and everyone else, that there's a lot of other crimes, false swearing, false statements, obstruction that could be sort of wrapped in that might have felony complications. If you try hard enough, just like they got a RICO indictment on that case, if you try hard enough, you can get a RICO conspiracy out of just about anything. But I will say that in and of itself, an open records violation is a misdemeanor. But that does not mean it's not prosecutable. It has been prosecuted. City of Atlanta actually tried to destroy records a while back. Recently, a clerk here in Cobb County, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, directed someone to destroy records, got a felony for that. So there are felonies that are attached to it. I think there's a lot of things that could be investigated. Perjury, obviously, emails, texts, all of those could be preserved. There's a lot out there if someone wanted to investigate. I wish that we had an attorney general that was willing to do that because there's a lot of people that have been victimized by this, but not yet.
Well, and people ask me that all the time, and she's not going to investigate herself. She's not going to, prosecute herself. She's not going to turn the GBI or the Fulton County Police, Atlanta Police, or whatever on herself. So it would be left to theoretically the Attorney General, or if there's any federal violations, it would be up to the Department of Justice.
Oh yeah, anybody who has search warrant power. That's what they need. Yeah. Anybody who has search warrant power, really.
And we've got, speaking of, we also have the Georgia Senate. Now they're not a law enforcement entity, but they are trying to get to the bottom of some of this through some subpoenas. And recently, I was speaking with Senator Greg Dolezal, who is sort of helping to lead that effort, I guess. And he sent me something from the Georgia Supreme Court the other day. They issued an order. Willis is trying to quash their subpoena. I guess you've been following that a little bit.
I have, yes.
She's trying to quash their subpoena. They issued a ruling. Basically, I posted it on X, on my X feed, because I'm like, now this is some legalese. But I guess the bottom line is they're trying to ask the parties to brief whether or not they even have jurisdiction to deal with it.
Right. I mean, because the point is she's trying any move she can to keep from the truth coming out. I mean, it's the opposite of transparency. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, she is filing so many legal maneuvers for someone who is trying to seek truth and justice in their job. And that is their job. That is their sworn duty. She is trying everything she can to make sure that truth and justice do not come out when it's her who's being investigated.
Well, this whole thing is it's truly a saga, and it's got so many pieces to it. It's like an octopus with tentacles everywhere. We're going to continue to follow it. I know you are, and I want to say thank you to you for being here today. And
Thanks for having me. Good to see everyone.
I wish you the very best of luck. And as Rachel pointed out, for those of you who may not know, Ashleigh and I are both co-hosts and contributors for one of Megyn Kelly's newest true crime ventures. It's called MK True Crime. You can catch us there. It's a rotating, as a core group of us. I think it's 7 or 8, and we rotate through. It's 3 at a time. Ashleigh and I have not yet been on a panel together, but it's coming up soon. Check that out and look. And we're very. I don't want to speak for you, Ashleigh, but I'm very flattered that we were selected for that, and it's just been a lot of fun. Yeah,
it is. It's a fun show. It's a great show. Quick updates on different things. Interesting. We'll be tracking this Adelson trial a lot.
Yeah, and that's the bit. See, and that's why it helps me to be able to do these longer form live streams here on Inside the Law, because we're also covering it over there, and it keeps my brain up to speed on everything that's happened. So anyway, a big round of applause for Ashleigh, and good luck finding that dress today.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
All right. So there you have it, folks. I don't know what's going on with my screen. I can't get it to be the right size. But anyway, look, I want to say thanks to all of you for, we've had 500 and some odd people in here, the live stream now for a while. I really appreciate folks spending some of your weekend with us, whether you're watching us live or on replay. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Please like and subscribe, and I count on that and other ways for your support to help continue to bring you interesting, I hope interesting things. The point is of all this is to not just talk about things, but we want to learn about the real justice system and how it really works in real life. And I always like to make sure that I leave you with one bit of advice. And if I could leave you with anything, I think I would say, if you ever called as a witness, don't be this guy.
Man, can I get a water or something? I'm so high right now, y'all. I'm about to go to sleep on y'all ass. I ain't gonna tell you no lie.
Yes, you may. We're gonna take a break soon. Hang in there.
So don't ever be that guy. I'm gonna have to leave it right there for today, and I'll catch you next time back here Inside the Law.